Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the Daily Gwei Refuel, where I recap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and today's 11th of December, 2023. Alright everyone, let's get into it. So kicking off today, we have a huge milestone that's been achieved. So the total ETH supply has hit a new low since the merge. So as you can see on this screenshot in this chart that I took from the Ultrasound Money website, the ETH supply since the merge has basically been down only. I mean, at this point it has, because we just hit a new low. It did have a little bit of an uptick there, as you can see in the chart, but has just continued to go down. And I mean, this goes back to what I say a lot on the Refuel, where I basically said it's a lot easier for us to burn ETH than it is for us to issue ETH. Because even if we're at the ultrasound barrier, let's say we're like neutral at the ultrasound barrier of 22 Gwei, we're burning as much as we're issuing, we're basically just going sideways. But then let's just say Gwei spikes up to, like, even just 25. Well, then we're technically deflationary, right? We're technically burning more than we're issuing. But even if Gwei goes down to like 15 Gwei from the ultrasound barrier of 22, we're still burning ETH and we're not issuing that much more. So it's much easier to burn ETH than it is to issue it, and that's why we see this happening here. And I would actually take the bet that the ETH supply is literally going to go down only for, I don't know if I want to say forever, but I can't really see a reason why it would stop going down only like this. Like, even if we had like a massive influx of new ETH stake, which would obviously increase the amount of issuance, because the more ETH at stake, the higher the issuance is. But then there are plans in the works over the next couple of years to potentially lower the issuance on the Beacon chain even further, because I guess like the core developers are concerned that we may be still overpaying for security, which would just offset any extra kind of issuance that we were issuing while the burn is still ongoing, right? So I struggle to see like a reason why this would stop, because even the reasons that people gave, where they said, oh, well, ETH L1 activity is going to go down because the L2s are going to eat into it, that hasn't been the case at all. L2s have been growing pretty wildly, actually. Like some of them have been growing a lot more than I expected over the last couple of months, and L1 activity has still been going up. And even if you come up with the idea that, okay, well, all the L1 activity is going to be replaced by L2 related activity, well, isn't that the bull case, right? Like, if the L2s get all the activity and then they start posting all their stuff down to L1, as they already are doing, and they start paying for that, and they basically replace the L1 users, or price out the L1 users over the longer term, then the L1 is still going to be generating a lot of fee revenue and would still be net deflationary, at least from where I'm sitting. Because at the end of the day, like, if you just look at the ecosystem and where we're at today and how many people are actually using this stuff, we're not even like 0.1% of the population like actively using this stuff. And I made a comment actually yesterday where I said that most of the, I guess, activity that happens on chain is going to be bots anyway. Like, it's not going to be humans. Humans aren't sitting there all day, every day, doing things, constantly like a bot does. Like, a bot will run 24/7. And what are the most active bots? Well, they're the MEV bots. And people will say, oh, well, we have to kind of get rid of MEV. It's like, or mitigate MEV. It's like, yeah, we are doing that. But the thing is that there are actually types of MEV that are required for an efficient and healthy market, such as things like arbitrage. Like, arbitraging the prices between different liquidity pools is 100% required. Like, without that, the liquidity pools would all be different prices. So because of that, even if we just take that alone, the MEV bots are still going to be the ones that are going to be most active on the network. Even if we eliminate all other types of MEV, right, that's still going to happen there. But it's not just MEV bots. It's just any bots generally that exist on the network. They're always going to be more active than a human user, because at the end of the day, like, let's just say you're a human user and you go on chain and you do a few things. Like, what's the most amount of actions you're going to be doing in a day? Maybe you buy a token and then you hold it for a little while. Maybe you do some social media things, or maybe you do some NFT stuff. Like, you're not going to be doing thousands of transactions a day, every day. And that's what these bots actually do. Like, they do this constantly. So when you think about it like that, and you think about the activity over time and how it's going to go up, you not only have to account for the amount of people that are going to be onboarded, you have to then multiply that by the amount of bots that are going to exist and how many actions they're going to take. Obviously, 8 billion bots aren't going to exist, right? But each bot will do thousands and thousands, if not tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of transactions a day, right? Whereas a regular user, and I'm talking like just an everyday regular user, not a power user, may only do like a few transactions a day, right? Whereas the power users will obviously do more. But if we're talking about the normal mainstream mass adoption user, they're not going to be doing many once you break down all the abstraction, because obviously a lot of this will be abstracted away. So when you think about it like that, you just add a massive multiple onto all the human users and their actions to the bots, and you get to essentially, in the end state, trillions, if not quadrillions of on-chain actions a day, right? When we get to like that end state, I mean, I know I'm thinking like really out there, but that's how I kind of view these things. That's all just bots doing that. And then think about the fact that there's always going to be kind of like a bidding war, as well as always going to be priority fees, because of the fact that without priority fees, you basically get DOSed and your network would go offline. We've seen that happen before, right? With various different networks. So from that point of view, I just don't see a world, like coming back to my original point, where ETH, like if ETH captures all this value, like honestly, there is a world where ETH loses its market share and doesn't capture this value, and and Ethereum dies off. Obviously, I don't think that's going to happen, but that is a reality that, you know, that could happen, right? It is one of the possible future paths. But the one that I see as much more likely is that Ethereum keeps dominating, the L2 roadmap keeps dominating, the L2s keep going and going and going, and they get bigger and bigger, and this space just gets bigger and bigger in general, and more people come online, more and more economic activity happens, more and more bots come online, and we get to the point where Ethereum as a network is generating not tens of millions of dollars of fees a day, not hundreds of millions of dollars of fees a day, not billions of dollars of fees, but potentially, I know this sounds crazy, but potentially one day, tens of billions of dollars of fee revenue per day, right? And I know it sounds, that sounds absolutely insane, because when you actually think about it, if 80% of that fee revenue is burned, let's say there's $10 billion of fee revenue a day, and $8 billion is burned, we basically run out of ETH at the current market cap. Obviously, in this reality, ETH would be a lot higher in market cap, but we basically run out of ETH to burn, if I'm just doing the napkin math in my head, in like a couple months or something like that, maybe a few months or something like that. So obviously, like the ETH price would probably be a lot higher, because I'm talking in dollar terms here. But if that is the reality that we're barreling down towards, like I think we will, in the far future, like this is decades out, then yeah, I mean, I feel like because there's so much growth left for these networks, I just don't see a world where ETH goes back to being inflationary. But anyway, I didn't expect that to turn into a bullish rant, but it did, and I went for like almost 10 minutes there, so I'm going to leave that one at that. But hopefully that made you sufficiently bullish on ETH, as I like to do on the refuel. But moving on from that to something I came across today from angaz.eth. They've built something called Ethernet.io, which is an Ethereum network crawler, and they've also written an article explaining everything to get you started, which you can check out. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. So Ethernet is very similar, I guess, like to other network crawlers, where it'll show you basically the nodes on the network, you know, the clients that are being used. It'll show you mainnet and test nets and stuff like that. It's got other nice features like snapshots and crawl history. But the reason why I wanted to bring this up today was because I'm really liking the trend of more of these network crawlers coming online now. Because historically, we really only had one for the execution layer, which was Ethernodes, right? Ethernodes data, and then we had basically some soft data that was the client, the person who manages the client diversity website, going out there and asking the service providers what EL or execution layer client they're running. But we've traditionally only had Ethernodes, and then there was one that I showcased a few weeks ago, and another one that I showcased I think last week. I've forgotten the names now of them, but they're there. And now there's another new one that's just come out. Now, each of these have various different kind of like data points here. Like this one, which says that there's 12,000 nodes on the network, whereas the one that I showed last week, I think said that there's 30,000. Like the truth is always somewhere in the middle here. Like it's hard, as I've said before, it's really hard to get an accurate number on these things, especially an accurate number on things like active nodes. And you know, there are nodes that go offline and then come back online, and if the crawler passes them during that time, you have to kind of wait for the crawl to happen again. So there's all this kind of stuff that goes into it. But I think that if we take like the average of all of the crawlers that I've seen, you could fairly say there's 15 to 20,000 full nodes like on the network at any given time. I would say that's a fair number, because we're getting more data as time goes on here, and that's kind of like the average, I guess, from what I've seen. Now, at the same time, it's also not just important how many full nodes there are, it's also important about like where they're geographically distributed, which is something that I showed the other week from the other crawler, who's actually operating them, because people will operate multiple full nodes, for example, and it's impossible to get the individuals here. Like you can say, okay, there's 20,000 full nodes on the network, but there's no way in hell you will know how many individuals are running those full nodes. Like you can't, there's definitely not 20,000 people or 20,000 individuals or companies or entities, running that individually there, because for example, like I myself am running 3 full node. Like I'm running Geth, Nethermind, and I was running Besu the other day. I was testing through it a little bit, but it might be offline now. I wasn't really paying much attention to it. I was just doing some experimenting there. But like I'm just an individual at home. Like yeah, okay, I'm a power user, but still, like think about all of the other entities that are running full nodes, right? The service providers, the big staking service providers, the exchanges, the infrastructure providers, like. So when you take it all like that, you can't even estimate like how many unique entities there are running full nodes on the network. But that's not the only most important thing. I think the most important thing is, well, there's the most important things. There's number of nodes. We want to get that as high as possible, of course. So there's actually three important things. Geographic distribution, I think, is critical, obviously, for a number of reasons. And in that actually falls, like, if your full node is in a data center or not, is also very critical. And the third thing, which I had in my mind and now I've forgotten, the third thing is definitely the most important thing, is like the ability for a regular person to run a full node on consumer hardware, right? That is, to me, by far the most important thing, more important than any other things out there. Because at any given time, if you want to run a full node to verify the network, you should be able to do that, because that is the whole value prop of a blockchain, basically being open and you being able to verify it yourself without having to trust anyone else. And once you lose that ability, to me, you no longer are a blockchain. Like, that's just my way of viewing these things. People can disagree with me on this, but my way of viewing these things is that you don't really classify as traditionally what I consider to be a blockchain, because you're now basically relying on trust, right? You're relying on trust and trusted entities, and those entities can be corrupted, they can be coerced, and in the end game, if there's only a few of those entities, they can all collude, and that's not obviously good for decentralization, and then you kind of like get rid of the purpose of having a blockchain. Anyway, enough ranting about that. You can go check out this new crawler. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. But there was also a related tweet that I came across today from this account called Punk5736, talking all about execution layer diversity and why it is currently worse than consensus layer diversity, and what the ecosystem is doing to rectify this, and also comparing this to Solana and how they're doing client diversity. I highly recommend going and reading this tweet. I'll link it in the YouTube description below, because it is honestly like one of the best tweets that I've read on this topic. I mean, there are tweets from other people that I've seen over the years, but this like just so concisely puts it like very well as to like why execution layer diversity is worse than consensus layer diversity. I mean, the TLDR is that like the execution layer diversity is just less mature. Geth has been around for a very long time, and it didn't start off with just Geth. We had like 2 clients originally, Geth and Parity. Then Parity fell off, became Open Ethereum, then Open Ethereum fell off, and then we had other teams come into the fray like Nethermind. Other clients coming to the fray like Nethermind, Aragon, and Besu, but they came later. Whereas with consensus layer, we had pretty much all of the clients from not day one, but they all kind of came together at the same time. So that's why it was we had better client diversity there. But anyway, I just wanted to highlight this tweet. You can go give it a read. I'll link it in the YouTube description below for you to do so. All right, so over the weekend, I think there was a hackathon. Yeah, there was an ETH global hackathon in India called EthIndia, of course. And you can see this tweet here from Maggie, just seeing the energy at the hackathon. So there were 1,750 hackers across 480 projects, and $250,000, $250,000+ was awarded in prizes. And it was the largest Ethereum hackathon in the world. That's really cool, because I've been saying this for a while, that I think that a lot of the new developers in the Ethereum ecosystem, a lot of the new community in the Ethereum ecosystem is going to come from places that aren't in the West and that aren't in, that aren't in the US, that aren't in Europe, more so kind of like in India, in other parts around the world. And to see that this is the biggest Ethereum hackathon to date is just really awesome, considering that, some people will be writing Ethereum off as dead right now, which is just so far from the truth. That's the narrative. That's the narrative. This is the reality, right? And I've talked about this endlessly on the refill. I won't bore you guys with repeating myself here, but I've always been of the mantra of like, follow the builders, follow where the builders are going, what they're actually building, what they're actually doing, what they're actually innovating on. Because at the end of the day, the narrative on crypto Twitter or wherever else is just the narrative. It doesn't have to match with reality, because it's free to say anything you want on these platforms, right? It doesn't cost you anything. Whereas the reality here, is there's a cost to it, right? These people, they had to go to the hackathon. They had to register. They had to build a project there. And yes, there were incentives like prizes, but I mean that's the same with every hackathon. But still, people went there and they hacked, and the best projects were the ones that won the biggest prizes as well. So that all kind of culminated in Ethereum's largest hackathon in the world. And for people to say on Twitter, oh, Ethereum is dying, Ethereum is dead, when we just had our largest hackathon ever, right? Yeah, I don't think that's very accurate, right? So anyway, just wanted to highlight that for you guys. You can go check out the pictures on the tweet if you want. I'll link it in the YouTube description below for you to do so. All right, so you guys are really interested in Eigenlayer, as I've noticed in the Discord channel, and I mean, I think you should be, because Eigenlayer is one of my favorite projects in the ecosystem right now, and I've been really, really excited to see EigенDA go live, hopefully in Q1 next year. But EigенDA is just one of the projects building on Eigenlayer. As you can see here, that there are currently 12 or 13 total projects building on Eigenlayer, and you know you can check out all of them. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. But I just wanted to highlight for you guys that EigенDA is just one thing. And this is why I'm so bullish on Eigenlayer, because not only is there EigенDA, where I'm actually bullish on these alternative data availability solutions, but not on all of them. I mean, I've gone through this before. I've said that I think that it's a race to the bottom. And I think that EigенDA is going to be the big winner here, just from the virtue of like its close relationship with the Ethereum ecosystem, and it's, you know, obviously with the restaking going into that and everything like that. But outside of that, there are just so many other things that can be built on Eigenlayer. Like, you know, Espresso is working with them to build their shared sequences. You have AltLayer working with them to build rollups, right? The rollups as a service thing. You have people building oracles on there. There's just so much that are going to be built using Eigenlayer. And I think that the way I put it, for like, if I had to give a high level explanation of what projects will actually use Eigenlayer, it'll be projects that want to decentralize themselves, but don't want to have to go through the hard effort of decentralizing themselves. They want to tap into an existing kind of shared security layer in order to decentralize themselves. Now, at the same time, there are concerns around this, because people say, well, Eigenlayer basically taps into Ethereum's node operator set, and then that node operator set starts getting a lot of overhead added to it, and then that could potentially be bad for Ethereum. I understand all of the concerns, but again, I revert back to, we're not going to know how this plays out unless we test it. And this is how we test it. So I'm super excited to see this all go live. And I should disclose, you guys know I'm an investor in Eigenlayer. But, you know, I mean, I was bullish on Eigenlayer before I invested in them. I've been talking about them for a very long time now. But yeah, it is definitely one of the most exciting projects coming to Ethereum, going live in the next few months. All right, speaking of things going live in the next few months, Starknet has been teasing their token for quite a while now. Well, Starkware has been teasing the token for Starknet for quite a while now, and there is a lot of hype around this token right now. And I think that the hype is definitely because a lot of people have been farming it. That's true with every token, I think. But the hype is to a fever pitch, basically. And I think that Starknet wants to launch their token in Q1, I believe. And they actually detailed some of the plans of how this is going to be distributed in this tweet, which I'll link in the YouTube description below. There is definitely going to be an airdrop. I don't know what the airdrop allocation is going to look like. I don't know what the eligibility criteria is. I do know, well, I mean, I don't know this, but I suspect, I mean, it's pretty obvious that the snapshot would already have been taken, so anyone farming it at this point probably isn't going to be successful there. But that's not the most interesting thing about their token for me. The most interesting thing is that they've actually announced that they're going to be using a 900 million Stark tokens for network rebates, or for user rebates. So they said here, planning for this initiative is currently underway, and a new committee is being formed to oversee the distribution of Stark to reward users for their vital transactions on the network. This marks a bold step in valuing and empowering our user community by rebating them for their transaction fees on the network. So essentially allowing users to do free transactions on the Starknet network, which is, in my opinion, the best way to use a token, to be honest. I think that, especially to bootstrap, obviously, a new ecosystem, because the L2 fees will come down, obviously. Rollup fees, L2 fees, Validium fees, they're all going to come down over time, but nothing's better than free. And if you can offer free at the start to entice people to come along, yes, it may not be sustainable because you're doing it as like an incentive program. You build a network effect up, you build liquidity up, and it becomes a lot more sticky. So then if you remove the rebates and fees are, I don't know, 1 cent or something like that, right? Or even less than that, or fees are just abstracted away completely, the users are already there and they're more likely to stay there than they otherwise would have been without an incentive, right? And that's the whole point of using incentives here. So I'm really glad that they're using it for network fee rebates here, rather than just like straight rewarding it to people for farming different different kind of like applications, which I'm sure is going to happen as well. There is a plan for that. But yeah, I do like this this network rebate idea here. But anyway, you can go check out the full tweet for more details on this. I'll link it in the YouTube description below for you to do so. All right, so I did mention that Lyra was building their own chain, Lyra Finance. They've been around for quite a while now. They started off on Optimism, went to Arbitrum, and now they're building their own OP stack chain. There is an Explorer now live for them, an explorer.lyra.finance for browsing the Lyra chain. So if you have been using the Lyra chain, or if you're interested in using it and kind of like exploring it, you can go check this out. I'll link it in the YouTube description below for you to do so. All right, speaking of L2s, Grow the Pie tweeted out over the weekend that there was a new all-time high in fees paid on layer 2s. So you can see here that most of the fees were paid by Linear, Arbitrum, and ZK Sync, which you can see in the chart here how much fees they paid. So in one day, Linear as layer 2 on Ethereum paid over $700,000 in fees, Arbitrum over $300,000, ZK Sync over $200,000, and then the list continues from there. Now, of course, these fees are going to drop once EIP 4844 goes live, at least initially, until activity builds back up, because the price of gas for layer 2s basically resets to zero, because they've got a new transaction type and a new fee market that they get to enjoy themselves. But this goes back to what I was saying at the start of the episode when I was going on about how there's going to be so much activity on these L2s, and they're going to be making so much money, and then they're going to be paying obviously Ethereum to secure themselves and to exist on Ethereum as a with the bridge contract and everything like that, and as an L2, and that's just going to keep going up only. Even, I mean, as I said, like there'll be a reset with 4844, but I believe after that it's just going to be kind of like up only from there. And then 4844 will get, I guess, like tweaked over time. So essentially the blob sizes will increase, we'll have more blobs, but at the end of the day, as demand increases, that's when we'll increase the size of it. But then demand's just going to fill that up again. So demand is just going to keep increasing, guys. Like, as I said at the start, like there are so many people and I guess like bots and economic activity left to onboard that we're nowhere near where we need to be in terms of kind of scaling, in terms of infrastructure, not just within Ethereum, but within this whole ecosystem. Because at the end of the day, most of the activity is not going to be humans, it's going to be bots, but humans bring the liquidity, they bring the economic activity for the bots to use. So the bots will go up as humans go up, and the bots will go up faster. So we need to keep scaling. We need to make sure that obviously fees for users and user fees remain low, and then we can have like high fees on layer 1, because layer 2s will be the ones using layer 1, so it doesn't really matter. All right, L2 Beat has updated their stage requirements. So they said here, back in June this year, we introduced the stages framework to help categorize rollups into 3 stages based on their reliance on training wheels. We've gathered a lot of feedback during this time. We have decided to refine it. So they've gotten stricter actually with these requirements. And you can see here, the Security Council requirements have gotten a lot stricter. So at the old requirement, one of the old requirements was that at least 50% of the members are outside of the core organization if they're on the Security Council. Now it's at least 75% threshold. And then the members are publicly announced, so that remains the same. At least 2 outsiders are needed to reach consensus. At least 50% threshold. Those have kind of like been removed, and these new requirements have become streamlined and more strict here, which as they should be. I think that we should definitely keep these things strict, and we shouldn't kind of falter in them, because it's very important. But yeah, if you want to read the full details about this, you can. I'll link the tweet thread in the YouTube description below. But these stages are definitely the most important thing when it comes to L2s. And I've shown it on L2 Beat's website a bunch of times before, so I'm not going to rehash it here. But yeah, very important. So definitely go check this out if you haven't yet. All right, so I just wanted to highlight this tweet thread and blog post from Jason Chaskin here, all about account abstraction. Now, this post, honestly, if you're going to read anything on account abstraction ever, this is the post to read, because it is long. Like you can see here how long it is. Like I'm just scrolling through. It's very, very long, but it's actually goes through basically everything in the state of account abstraction. Like, you probably will not find a deeper dive than this. Now, of course, if you don't want to read the whole guide because it's really long and you haven't got the time to, you can read Jason's tweet thread, which I'll link in the YouTube description below. But I highly recommend giving the post a read. I mean, I'm not finished with it yet. I'm slowly getting through it. It is a dense read here, but I'm learning so much myself as well from this, because I think account abstraction is definitely a big thing that's just getting discussed more and more. It's very important for user experience. So definitely go give this a read. I'll link it in the YouTube description below for you to do so. All right, so some bittersweet news out of Sismo over the weekend. So Sismo has returned funds to its investors. And as you guys know, I was one of those investors in Sismo. I had some of my funds returned, which means that the project has shut down. I guess like the team has dissolved and they've kind of like shut down the project. But the cool thing is that they've actually open sourced or are planning to open source all of Sismo's technology. So you remember Sismo is a project that was building ZKPs to be able to verify things like if you had if you had tokens on one wallet that you wanted to keep private, you could generate a ZK proof or a ZK NFT of that and basically prove that you have those tokens without revealing the address that you had them on, stuff like that. And they were working on single sign-ons and identity and all that sorts of stuff there. But unfortunately, for one reason or another, that's explained in, I guess, like the tweet thread to some extent, they had to shut down their operations here. But I find it really cool that they open source their technology, which means that if another personal team wants to take on Sismo's technology and incorporate it into their own stack, or maybe just take on Sismo and continue Sismo and continue the project along as an open source project, they definitely can. So bittersweet ending, I think, to Sismo here, but I think I did warn at the beginning of the year that a lot of projects would shut down, and I prefer projects shutting down rather than just continuing on as zombies. But it's mainly because like a lot of things get funded in the bull market. Some of them will fail because they were just bad ideas, but a lot of them will fail because I think that they get burnt out. The teams get burnt out. The teams start having differing view on things. The team maybe starts not seeing the value prop as much as they once did because things become clearer in a bear market than they were in a bull market. There's like a million different reasons why things fail. But to say Sismo failed, I think is wrong. I think what happened is like just generally the business and the team wasn't working anymore. The technology still works. I mean, we have proof of that. We were using that on chain. I remember highlighting it a bunch of times on the refuel, but unfortunately the team just couldn't continue working on it, and they've just decided to open source it, which is great, but that's how some of these things happen sometimes. So anyway, you can go check out Hadrian's tweet thread here. I'll link it in the YouTube description below for you to do so. All right, just a quick shout out here to the ETH Investors Club. They've published an article here introducing themselves and what they're actually all about. Now, I remember that I highlighted this on the refuel a little while ago, and how it's going to be obviously a paid quarterly report about Ethereum that's trying to essentially reach people outside of the Ethereum ecosystem and keep them up to date on what's happening within Ethereum and Ethereum's growth overall, especially from like an investor perspective. So you can go check this out for yourself. I'll link in the YouTube description below. It hasn't launched yet, but it is launching soon, so you can sign up for early access. And I do want to note here that I agreed to be an advisor to the ETH Investors Club, but I have also said to them that I do not want any profits or any kind of share in what they're doing. I want them to redirect any kind of like share or any profits that we're going to give to me to the Protocol Guild. So basically just foregoing anything and donating it there, because I want to help them with their content. I want to help them with with reviewing the content and making sure that they're writing things that I think are good and are valuable and can add value to people, and obviously give them feedback and things like that. But like, I don't really care about profiting from that or anything. Like, I just want to educate people on Ethereum. You guys know that's my whole thing. So yeah, I just wanted to disclose that I am technically an advisor to them, but I am not getting paid for that. It is a free thing that I'm doing just because I want to help them, write these kind of reports and get them out there to a more mainstream audience. All right, so a couple of last things I wanted to talk about, and this is going to send me overtime here, but I think this is quite important. So I put out this tweet over the weekend where I said, This is ancient history now, but once upon a time, Ethereum L1 was the low-fee chain, and people would make fun of Bitcoin for being the expensive chain. This sounds ridiculous, but this was a thing for a little while, because Ethereum didn't have much usage, right? And Bitcoin did, and Bitcoin fees were higher than Ethereum, and we'd make fun of Bitcoin for being, higher fees than Ethereum. But then ICOs and CryptoCitties happened in 2017, and Ethereum fees went up, and it took days for the mempool to clear because we didn't have EIP 1559 yet. It actually did take a lot of days for your transaction to clear. You'd have to replace your transaction. It'd get stuck because we didn't have EIP 1559 implemented in to make the fee market better and more streamlined. And then fees went down for a bit during 2018 and 2019 bear market, but the most plugged in Ethereums knew that this was temporary, so they continued working on scaling through Plasma, which obviously eventually evolved into things like rollups. Then DeFi summer happened in 2020. And fees went up so much that they made ICO and CryptoKitty Mania look cheap in comparison. And I said here, the point of this tweet is to illustrate that once demand for a chain is saturated, priority fees kick in, and then it becomes a bidding war for block space. And do you know who wins that bidding war every single time? MEV bots do, because they are the actors willing to spend the most on fees to capture some expected value from arbitrage, sandwich attacks, liquidations, mint sniping, and more. And I said that all this can happen on any layer 1, layer 2, sidechain, monolithic chain, modular chain, whatever you want to call it. And we as an industry should be tackling these issues as a collective rather than a bunch of divided tribes. Now, I really want to hit on this point about the MEV bots, because I was talking about this at the start and about how most activity will be driven by MEV bots. But when you think about it from like an economic perspective, let's just say there is an arbitrage opportunity where the MEV bot will make $1. They'll make $1 in profit. Okay, so how much do you from a $100 from a $100 arbitrage? That means that they're willing to spend $99 in gas fees to make that $1 profit, because they're still getting a profit out of it, right? A bot that's doing this hundreds of times a day is making some good money, maybe thousands of times a day. Even if it's a small kind of arbitrage, they're still making some money. So as long as it makes sense for them to do this and for them to pay the fee to do this, they will do it. And that's just a simple arbitrage. I'm not talking about sandwich attacks, front running, back running, liquidations, being the one to liquidate someone and then being able to offload that and make a profit off that is extremely lucrative sometimes. And mint sniping, sniping NFTs and stuff like that. Like, this sort of stuff is very profitable if you know what you're doing as an MEV bot, as a searcher, right? So when you think about that, it doesn't matter what network you have. It doesn't matter if you've eliminated some forms of MEV. There are very, very complex forms of MEV. There are a lot of different forms of MEV that will happen regardless. And these bots will always 100% of the time outbid everyone else, because they are the ones willing to spend the most money to do it, right? You will always lose to them as a regular user. Okay, so what's the solution here? Well, I put out a tweet in another thread. I don't think I've got it up here. No. I put out a tweet in another thread where I basically said the only way to fix this issue is to align incentives between the bots and the humans. Okay, so how do we do this? Well, we essentially make it so that the bots pay the fees for the users, and we abstract it away for the user. Okay, well, what's a practical example of that? Well, I'm sure a lot of you have used CowSwap before, right? It's on Ethereum layer 1. I don't think it's on any layer 2s right now. It's just on layer 1. But you use it, and you sign a couple of messages, right? And that's your order that goes to the CowSwap protocol. Now, you haven't paid a gas fee at all during that. You're just signing a message. You're signing an order. You're saying, I want to swap, USDC for ETH or whatever it is. And then in the background, the MEV bot, CowSwap calls them solvers, they all compete with each other to fill that order for you. Now, they fill that order. They make whatever money they make off of that using their complex strategies in the background. Then they also pay the gas fee on chain to send that to you, essentially, to send those funds to you and to complete your order for you. So that's the alignment of incentives there, where it's called a coincidence of wants. That's why CowSwap is called CowSwap. The cow literally stands for coincidence of wants, where you have a user here that wants this, you have a bot here that wants to make money, bring them together and align their incentives, and you have something where the user no longer sees gas fees, they have the best execution for their order, and everyone's incentives are totally aligned. And that is the end game for this, right? That's how it's actually going to be for everyone eventually. There is not going to be people paying gas fees. It's going to be all abstracted away, but you have to abstract it away in a way that allows the alignment of incentives. You can't just do it and then the fees are still being paid some other way in the background that hurts the user. You need to align the incentives on this, and that's what I believe is going to happen. But yeah, the point of this tweet was just to illustrate that No one has solved scalability. It's not something you can necessarily solve. You can just keep making better over time. And you have to keep realigning incentives, and you have to keep working on things to mitigate any issues that arise from this and any negative externalities that arise from these things. But anyway, that one's done. Just a last shout out here. I put a tweet out today asking if people would be interested in me doing regular AMAs about Ethereum on Twitter. You guys will remember that I used to do them in the Daily Gwei Discord channel, but I would love to do them on crypto Twitter via text so that I can get more eyeballs on it. And I really want to clear up the confusion about Ethereum on crypto Twitter. So this probably will happen. I got a lot of good feedback here. People saying, yes, please do it. I think that the format that I'll do is that I'll have like a thread that I'll start. I'll be like, okay, here's an AMA. You have 24 hours to send your questions to me on DMs or on Discord or wherever. And then I'll screenshot those questions, and I obviously won't dox the person. I'll just screenshot the question. I'll post it in my thread and I'll answer it. And then I'll have it so that no one can reply to the thread. Because if I have it as an open thread, you already know what's going to happen, right? It's just going to be bombarded with bullshit. It's going to be replies here, replies there. It's going to be confusing as hell for people. So I'll have it as a closed thread where I just basically answer everyone's questions. And as I said, the point is that I want to clear up the confusion on crypto Twitter, but I also want to get more eyeballs on it, because as good as I thought the Daily Gwei Discord channel AMAs were, there weren't that many people that kind of were tuned into it. It was basically the existing Daily Gwei community, which is fine. I love you guys, but at the same time, you guys are already plugged in. You guys already know like a lot of this stuff. We need to be reaching people outside of our little bubble, right? We need to be reaching people on crypto Twitter where they're very confused about Ethereum right now. And, you know, I think a lot of it's got to do with a lot of other ecosystems fighting Ethereum, but at the same time, there is definitely a gap there for educating on that platform there. But yeah, look forward to that. Probably in the next couple of weeks, I'll do something like that, and then I'll decide on the cadence from there. But I think that's it for today's extra long episode. So thank everyone for listening and watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the newsletter, join the Discord channel, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Thanks, everyone.